Hello again. What are we? Today 13. Lucky 13. Lucky for you, we're covering faith today. Faith is self-generated, self-created. Quote from Alfred A. Montepert. Question: why are we masters of our faith, the captains of our souls? Because we have the power to control our thoughts, our attitudes. That is why many people live in the withering negative world. That is why many people live in the positive faith world. And you don't have to be a poet or a philosopher to know which is best. Another quote I had, double duty today. An author unknown says, every tomorrow has two handles. We can take hold of it by the handle of anxiety or by the handle of faith. Now, as usual in this book, and I may have you at a disadvantage because perhaps you haven't studied Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Charles Hannell and Earl Nightingale and all these other books. And that was the point of this, to distill these down into 14 points. And once I said, well, I've got to share them. So these chapters, as simple as they are too much a distillation of the far more well-written and more powerful tomes that are out there on this subject. And I was reminded today about how self-help as a study is older than the oldest sciences we have, even though science supports them with their studies about all the changes you can make in your life. The point is that self-help is far more basic to a person's nature than just about anything except living itself, because it is part and parcel of living, because our thoughts, our mind is part of our life, of our living. And so if you have a mind, if you have your own mind, then you're creating it, you're changing it. And people have known this for longer than recorded history. But we digress. Today we're studying faith. And the only thing I bring to this took me probably longer than others to figure out, because others were actually laid out very easily. But there's a thing with, we're all brought up with, or perhaps a lot of us in the Christian cultures are brought up with faith being something of that's rained down on us from a higher good or a higher being. I took a different approach. I said, this really doesn't make sense because it doesn't align with everything else. And what I found out with this subject is that faith is simply and entirely self-generated. The amount of faith you have is up to you. People who are, like Joan of Arc had incredible faith. However, that faith was generated by her. And if she failed by her burning and all this other stuff, if that was a failure indeed, it was, any lack of faith was her own. It was nobody else could. You can't go out to the dime store and buy faith. At the same time, if you have no faith when you pray, what blessings are you going to get from above? By that same token, you see the logic and the math don't add up on this stuff. Faith is completely self-generated. Now, we've already covered a lot of the material, the mechanical parts of this. That if you learn how to sit still, to control your body, if you let other things go, if you learn to calm your mind, to relax, to let your thoughts be as they may, if you are able to then focus on a vision, something you want to change, and plan out the actions of it, then you should be able to accomplish it. Now, the bottom line to all of this working, and this is why this then comes up on the 10th step, is that you have to generate the faith, the energy behind the concept in order to push it through. And you can focus on it all you want, right? This 15th point of focus. However, you have to generate, part of your planning, part of your action steps is generating the faith you need to push forward regardless of anything. You have to have faith in self. Faith in self. And that is really going to be something you have to prove out to yourself. I can tell you this stuff, and this is all these videos are, is me telling you what I've found to be true. And there's nothing more than that. They work for me. They could work for you, but only you are going to be able to test it for yourself and find out whether they do or not. There was an article that brought this whole subject on. There was an article today where somebody was just ripping a new one into self-help, but he was really talking about his own lack of faith in himself. If you see people critical, they have an esteem problem. If they have an esteem problem, they aren't creating enough self-faith. They don't believe in themselves. Okay? I've beaten a dead horse far too long tonight. So study that up on your own. Get the book. Check it out. Today's exercises, let me just paraphrase them because they're all long. The first one is is quite key, is you sit in your chair, consider times when your trust was betrayed, and each time go through the sequence event and determine what action took place which you used to change your trust value. Right? The rest of the environment was out there, true, but it was your changing that attitude towards self that created a lack of faith. Okay? And that whole section, more to it, but just go take these back and take it prior to what most people stop and consider where you changed your own faith. Just see if there was something there. Okay? Now the next one from Hanel was concentrate your power to create, seek insight, perception. Try to find a logical basis for the faith which is in you. Let the thought rest on the fact that the spiritual man also lives and moves and has his being similar to the subtler energy upon which he must depend for life, and that as in the physical world no life assumes form until after a seed is sown, and no higher fruit than that of parent stock can be produced. So in the spiritual world, no effect can be produced until the seed is sown, and the fruit will depend upon the nature of the seed. So that again, Hanel is a book like Thomas Troward, where you read each paragraph as a paragraph. I would suggest you get his book. So you should get all these books and study this point. But the whole point again, the seed which is brought to fruition is your own faith. Now the third point was take your vision and work it over with faith. Look it over carefully and get the end product in mind. Create the idea and hold it firmly. This has already happened. Right? Again, you're going through all the specifics of it. But now put that extra horsepower that you alone can produce, can generate for you, and get some, if not enthusiasm, get some fervent interest in this point. And just really get all the colors, all the smells, all the tactile sensations of it. And push this home has already been done. Because the more faith you generate, the faster it shows up in the real world. This real world we have. Okay? Thanks.